everybody knows. Okay, so again, welcome. So I'm actually going to share my screen. I did a little presentation, and so I'll talk for, I'm going to talk for maybe 40 minutes, but I want this to be a bit of an interactive session. So at any point, if you have questions, feel free to, jump in. I think there's a raise hand feature that you can use in Zoom, or you can type in the chat. If there's, an opportunity, you can also unmute yourself. We're a small group tonight. I think maybe more people will be joining, but we're just going to move forward. So the first thing I'll do is just share my screen, and I'm hoping that you can let me know when you actually can see my screen. Just if someone can just unmute themselves and just confirm that you can actually see it, because sometimes there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thanks, you guys. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a breath body practice.
For some reason, I cannot see your screen.
Cannot see the screen. Maybe change your view, Sravanti. So on the top right, you should have something where you can show screen.
Yeah, I can see only your face.
Only my face. So maybe, is there a different view that you can switch to?
There's only two views, either speaker view or gallery view. That's all I have.
Okay, try gallery view first.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
See if I can I don't know if I can spotlight. Okay. I'm going to just troubleshoot just for a second. Everybody bear with me. Okay, I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to try it again. So Sravanti, what do you see now?
I still see your face.
Okay, so I'm going to try again. And if not, if you don't end up seeing it, I wouldn't worry too much. I'll talk us through it. So not to hold things up, I can kind of, okay, so I've shared the screen.
Yeah, I can see it now. Thank you.
You can see it now. Okay, perfect. Okay, and I'm just going to change my view. Okay, so I just want to remind you of what we're going to go through today. So, really, if you're looking to reduce your stress, have more focus, feel energized for the day, and even feel more physically fit, then you're in the right place. So in this hour, we're going to review really the anatomy of the breath, how it works and how it affects your body and how it affects your mind. I'll also explain why you need a regular practice of deep breathing. It's one of the best tools for improving your health, and also your mental health. I equate the two. So when I'm saying health, I do refer to both physical health and mental health. So I like to look at it in a more holistic way. And then I'll talk a little bit about the power of habit science. So speaking to what Sravanti was saying earlier, how do we incorporate it into our day, into our morning routine, or into our daily routine, as we're usually all quite busy, right? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And then after that, we're going to delve into some simple breathing practices that you can incorporate. So we'll make this really practical. We'll do that together. So I guess like I said, I want to make this really interactive. So I want to do a little poll here. I know there's only about 4 of us here on the call. That's great. So I just really want to know, who here struggles with adopting healthy habits? So, I think you can put a yes or no. It's a pretty easy poll. Yep. Melanie, is that a question or is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Okay. All right. Does anybody here feel like they really have their healthy habits locked down? You guys can unmute yourselves.
Certainly not me.
All right.
Yeah, and some more than others, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So curious. I'm curious about that. I'm curious about a lot of things because I wanted to dig into what you're struggling with. So Sravanthi, when you say you're trying to build a morning routine, what is it about your routine that you're really struggling with? I don't know if, I think you're still on mute, Sravanthi.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm kind of chatting. So waking up really early in the morning to fit into go to work and like cook and other things as well. So just waking up because of my issues, I guess. So that's what I usually find it hard.
Okay. All right. Okay. And what about you, Melanie? What are some of the things you're particularly struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, I think waking up definitely is one more recently now that I'm working remotely. So when I was commuting, it was pretty easy for me to get up because I had to be in the office at a certain time. But now that my office is downstairs, I find I'm sleeping in more than usual. And then it really becomes me starting work at 7:30 and, working till just before this call. Like there's no breaks in between. There's no separation from home and office, which is challenging.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Hi, Jody. Welcome. Okay. So I just want to preface all of this with, I think we're like, this is all really, I hope you realize, really normal. And if you don't realize that, it is, and kind of really indicative of what's going on in our society as a whole. I think that, it's really, we are not, our habits are really a reflection of the habits of our society and of the people who are around us, right? And most of our decisions are actually based on habit. We make something like 60 to 80% of the things that we do are done unconsciously out of just routine or habit. And, I have a funny story of my sister one time when she was a tour guide and she was working in a city, and she would pick people up at the airport with the bus driver, and then they would proceed to drop people off at different hotels. At the time, she was also going to school. And so one day they picked up the group and they went to the first hotel, and she signed them into the hotel desk. And this was at a time when this was happening. And then she proceeded to just go on her merry way and go down the subway and just go back home. She just fell into her routine and didn't even realize what she had done until, maybe 20 minutes later. So I think that just kind of really, hopefully none of us have done anything quite so absent-minded as that, but I think we often find ourselves, I didn't even realize, I wasn't paying attention for these past few minutes. And so, I think that struggling with routine is hard. And I think it's something that's best done, John, you're here with your wife.
Oh, it's not?
Pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're here with your wife, and I think that's amazing. When we can provide, build groups around us, then the chances of success are going to be that much greater, because then we can lift each other up and we can lift ourselves up. Okay, so here's a picture of a newborn, or at least a very, very young baby. Have any of you ever seen a newborn breathe? I'm sure some of you are moms. I know I am. And you watch your baby. It's pretty incredible. They just naturally practice deep breathing. So they breathe in through their nose, using their diaphragm, which is the muscle underneath their lungs. And they pull the air deep into their lungs all the way into their belly. And if you watch them, you'll see their belly expands. I'm using my hands here and you can't see. And then and their chest rises. And then as they exhale again, mostly through their nose. And their belly contracts. And so they just naturally from birth practice this deep breathing. But as we get older, something happens. I don't know why my slides aren't really working, but hopefully the next picture will come up. So basically what happens as we get older, there's stress, there's pollution, there's also even, the external forces of wanting to have a flat belly and not kind of expanding. And we stop that practice for some reason. And so it no longer becomes instinctive. And so as we get stressed, as we stop breathing more deeply, it becomes this cycle where it actually develops a bit of stress in our body when we don't breathe deeply. We do what's called thoracic breathing or chest breathing. So we breathe in and we don't fully expand the lungs, we don't fully expand the belly, and we just breathe through the chest. And so the problem is we're not getting as much oxygen into our bodies as we need. And if you think about it, you can go several days, maybe even weeks without food. You can definitely go a few days without water. You can only go minutes without breath, right? Without oxygen, we need it. And so over time, we develop these patterns, and I really want to show the next slide. So I hope this is going to come up this time. And if not, I might just have to abandon the slides. Okay, so in this slide here, you can see belly breathing. So you can see on the left, this is someone breathing in through their nose, down all the way into their belly, and their belly expands. And so sometimes this is something we don't want to do. And so we end up kind of constricting our belly, holding it in, and then just breathing through our chest. And sometimes that isn't necessarily the reason. It might be more stress. So we just kind of start to breathe more quickly when we're stressed. And for whatever reason, we adopt this more shallow breathing. Okay, so what happens though is it creates stress in the body. When we breathe in a shallow way, the body remains in a cyclical cycle of stress. And that's what this slide is supposed to be showing. So life on top of you here at the top. Did you hear, when Melanie was talking about, there's no time for breaks. I'm working, I worked right until this meeting. You could hear the stress in her voice. And I think that probably for most of us, that's pretty familiar, right? We've got families that we're taking care of. We're worrying about our future. We're maybe worrying about money, or maybe it's something else. And that all of these different things, we eat a lot of food, cause stress in our body, and that causes a physiological response. And so one of the things that happens is that we start to breathe in a shallow way. So it doesn't, but when we breathe in a shallow way, it doesn't just make a stress response, it creates a stress habit in our body. So a habit is something that you do over and over again without thinking. And so, breathing, you could say, is an autonomic function. It happens on its own, but there's different patterns that happen. And so one of the patterns can be shallow breathing. On average, we breathe somewhere between 17,000 and 25,000 breaths every day. So that's a lot of breaths. And so it can really affect our health if we're not breathing deeply. We aren't getting enough oxygen into our lungs. It also causes tension in our chest, in our shoulders, in our neck. It can cause headaches, impaired thinking if we're not getting enough oxygen, we're not getting enough lung capacity. And so really the overall effect on our body causes actually more stress when we don't breathe deeply. And so then again, it's this feedback loop. So the other thing is you're preventing your body from using the respiratory muscles. So I mentioned that sometimes we don't want to breathe deeply into our belly because we want to have a flat belly. But then we're not working the muscles, our respiratory muscles, which then, people don't understand that our diaphragm and our abdominal muscles need to be moved. And that is a kind of exercise. And so that actually contributes to cardiovascular health. So the stakes aren't like small here. They're pretty they're pretty big because, you know, I'm talking here about chronic stress, which means that your heart rate is going to be going up. It actually means that your hormones are going to be out of whack. Cortisol levels are caused when you have chronic stress, which means can result in weight gain, particularly around the belly. It can cause, you know, anxiety, worry about the future. If you're not breathing in properly, your heart starts to beat more quickly. The result is that your mind starts to follow and your thoughts become more quick. And so that can create mood or anxiety disorders. And if you look here, this statistic was taken from Health Canada. 44% of adults over 20. So these are many of these are young adults, have at least 1 in 10 common chronic conditions: hypertension, osteoarthritis, mood and or anxiety disorders. So there's epidemic here, right? It's a huge amount. And how many of these do you think are affected by the breath? Does anybody, like, which ones do you think are affected by the breath? You can just type in the chat. Hey, Jody, I just saw that you note that you're having internet troubles. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, it's just connection issues. I think definitely mood and anxiety would be,
Yes.
I mean, I could take asthma for sure.
Mhm.
All, yeah, I was gonna say, I could say all. I bet it's all.
I may not go with cancer. I mean, not directly. That might be one. And osteoarthritis, perhaps not. But I think it's all linked, right? The mind and body are one. I want to just talk about asthma for a second. So studies have shown, they've studied parents of kids who are asthmatic and not. And they've shown that parents who are stressed have a higher percentage, like a higher risk of having kids with asthma. And then what is it that they give people who have asthma? It's adrenaline, right? It's stress hormones. So like it's all very linked. It's not to say that you can just breathe and asthma is going to go away, but I think it's the point that, you know, the breath has a really strong impact on the physiology of our body, and there's a lot that we can do to control that. I'm coming at this from an Ayurvedic perspective, but that doesn't mean that I'm throwing away Western medicine. So I think there's a place for both. So I think it's just looking at the root cause and also working with your doctors if you have some of these. But really my point here is that it's really, the answer is that just about every single one of these is related to stress and or inflammation, which has a direct link to how you breathe. Okay. So inflammation is probably the leading cause of just about every chronic disease on this list, including dementia, including even cancer, including diabetes, every single one of these. And since chronic inflammation can be reduced by deep breathing techniques, it goes to say that there's a link here. The point is that you can do something to change this. So again, the stakes they're not low for changing things. But I think it's also a good thing to say, like, that's good news. That means that you're in control. So there's something, a term in Ayurveda called svastika, which means seated in the self. And so the idea is that having the confidence or having the knowledge and the wisdom to know what is right for you in your body, rather than always outsourcing to, an outside expert. It's not to say that you don't want to consult a doctor, you don't want to consult experts who have, are highly trained and knowledgeable, but there is something about our own innate wisdom, that I think that we kind of lose in Western medicine when we only look to what the experts say and kind of disregard what we perhaps intuitively know is going on in our body. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any comments or questions or? because that might sound like something different than what you've heard elsewhere. So I'm curious about if anyone has any thoughts about that. Okay. Okay, so who am I? So I told you that my name's Christina, and that's about all I said earlier today. Some of you know me, and some of you are just meeting me tonight. So I'm really happy that you're here. So I'm a former management consultant for about 15 years. I worked in the cultural sector, traveling all around the world, loved the job. But it was also really, really stressful. And I counted myself as a really, what I thought was a really healthy individual. I practiced yoga. I was a runner. You know, I was vegetarian for many years. And then I had my daughter and was diagnosed with with hypothyroid. And it turned out that it was an autoimmune disorder. I think this sounds familiar to some of you. And I kind of went, huh. And so I booked myself into, I was kind of irritated with how everything was being treated, and I was stressed, and I didn't really know how to, make sense of all of this. And so I booked myself into a meditation retreat for a week, sandwiched in between a business trip to China and working on my latest HR certification. I was actually studying during the retreat, which is ridiculous. But I did go, and I did actually slow down and take time. And it was a mindfulness retreat, and it really showed me, the food was made lovingly by monks and nuns, and the pace was a lot more slow. And really the idea was, meditation and mindfulness. And so I really had an opportunity to slow down. And then I went back to my regular life, and I went in to get my medication changed, or to get it checked, my blood checked. And it turned out that after only 1 week of slowing down and practicing meditation and breathing and mindfulness, they had to change all of my medication. They hadn't, not all, there was one. They had to lower my medication. And this went on for months after 1 week. And I was like, I knew, of course, there was a link, but I didn't realize how quickly this could affect things. And all the doctor said to me was, well, have you changed your life? And of course, at that point I was working and traveling and doing everything. And so I was like, no, I haven't. But I did think back, and it was really definitely linked to that meditation retreat. A year went by and things kind of went back to normal, but that stuck with me. And so that was kind of at that point when I really decided to really focus on meditation and mindfulness and kind of this journey going deeper. Like I've been practicing yoga for over 20 years, but this is when I really started to dig a lot deeper and really kind of cement my practice and really learn more about the breathing techniques that we're going to talk about today. So that's a little bit about me. And I think this might sound really familiar to some of you. Does any part of the story kind of resonate with you? The idea that like I wasn't stopping, or, the autoimmune disorder, which is something that's really common.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. It's Mel. And I suffer from alopecia, which is, a condition that causes your hair to fall out, which is related to stress. It's an autoimmune condition. So stress manifests itself in your body in so many different ways. It's unreal. And it's during those periods where you may not realize how stressed you are that your body then shows you signs with the view that hopefully you will slow down. Yeah. But you don't want to get to that point, right? Where it's at its height is when your body is reacting that way.
Yeah. And sometimes after as well, right? But I'm here to show you or tell you that it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't even necessarily mean you have to totally slow down and stop being, high performing, doing all of the things you love. I think it's about balance. I think that the key is just kind of attuning to the rhythms of nature and remembering that we're also part of nature. right? So nature has cycles and rhythms. There's the day and the night. There's the in and the out breath. There's the beating of the heart. There's the seasons. So all of these are rhythmic processes. And, I can share if anyone's interested. I did, my last talk was on routines. And so I talked a lot about rhythm and circadian rhythm and how in modern life, we're kind of pushing against that. And that has huge detrimental effects on us. So I think if we can try to get back and just make small changes, they only have to be small. They make big changes and effects over time. We can start to attune to those rhythms and then kind of flow as opposed to fight against life. Okay. So let's get a little bit more into the meat of this talk, and stop being a talking head and do a little bit more practicing. So what we want to do today is really my intention is to learn how to consciously breathe and practice safe and effective techniques that both energize and relax your mind and your body and just kind of bring you back to your breath. Does that sound good to you guys? Okay. All right. So pranayama, that's a word that some of you might not know. Does anybody know what this word means? What do you think it means? Take a guess. Type it in the chat. So some of you, if you've practiced yoga, you might know prana. Some of you may know what this is. It's a Sanskrit word. No guesses, hey? Okay. Oh, I see there's.
I was going to say breath of life or something like that.
Life. Okay. That's a really good one. A good one. That's good. Okay. So it's close. So it's prana is like in Chinese medicine qi. So a simplistic for would be breath, but prana itself is really the breath of life, Jody. So that was a really, really good guess. Yama in Sanskrit means to regulate or control. So pranayama is the practice of breath control in a very simplistic kind of way. And it's one of the 8 limbs of yoga. So I think a lot of people think that yoga is simply about doing movement and maybe a little bit of breathing, but there's all different practices here that go on. There's obviously there's the asanas, which are the poses or postures. There's control of the senses. There's meditation. And so there's a lot of different things, and we don't need to get into them today, but today we're going to talk a little bit about pranayama because I like calling upon I like the marriage of Western science with this, 5,000-year-old wisdom, that's tried and they've known a lot of these things for a long, long time. It's not this, I didn't make this stuff up. I just want to share it because I think it's really helpful. Okay. So pranayama, it's the ancient practice of controlling your breath. So what are the things you can control? You can control the timing. You can control the duration and even the frequency. So how fast you breathe. So you can have a very fast breath, almost like hyperventilating. I think someone mentioned, John, you mentioned Wim Hof earlier. And so one of the practices, some people say it's Bastrika, but it's not, it's something else. It's almost as fast as hyperventilating when you breathe the Wim Hof breathing, and then you retain for like long periods of time. We're not going to do that one today. And some practices are more mindful. Like there's something called Samavriti, which is box breathing. So that's basically controlling the duration of the in, the out, and the holds. And that's something that modern psychology has taken up, and they call it box breathing. And it's a really, really, really effective technique for regulating your body and your mind when in times of stress. Okay, so we're going to practice. So, if you can grab some tissues, that's always helpful. When you start to do a practice on, every day or more regularly anyway, it's best not to just had a big meal. Make sure you've gone to the bathroom, just because you're kind of moving your stomach, and so it might not feel very comfortable. It's also good to just kind of stretch a little bit, make sure you're not in a room that was just painted or that has a lot of kind of, if you can do it outside, great. Just not, you want the air quality to be, fairly good. You want to feel comfortable. So sit in a way that's comfortable for you. You're always seeing people sit in lotus pose or on the ground. You can sit in a chair. That's just fine. So do what's comfortable for you. You can use a timer to track your time and start small, especially if you've never done this before. 2 minutes is good. 2 minutes consistently is way better than doing 30 minutes or 60 minutes every so often. And try to make a commitment to practice and set how many times you're going to practice. So even write it down if you decide. Okay, so the first breath we're going to do is just a mindfulness breath. And so the intention of this breath is to simply notice the breath as it is, moving naturally through the body. So wherever you are, just get comfortable. If you're sitting in a chair, come towards the front of the chair and let your feet rest on the ground. Perhaps close your eyes or at least soften your gaze. Bring your attention to your feet. And just notice your feet resting on the ground. Bring your attention to your sitting bones. So we're just starting a mindfulness breathing practice. If you're just joining us, welcome. You can rest your feet on the ground, take a comfortable seated position, and close your eyes. Let your hands rest wherever they're comfortable. And bring your attention to your sitting bones and feel the weight of your sitting bones in the chair. And then just lift your spine. So lifting from the crown of your head, just start to gently lengthen it. Invite your body to relax. Let yourself relax and become curious as you sit here. Become embodied, feeling comfortable in your body, really noticing your body, noticing any sensations. Bring your attention back to the connection with the floor or the chair. And do your best to relax any areas that are feeling tight or tense. And then bring your attention to your breath. Breathing in and out through the nose. Just notice the feeling of the breath. So you might notice tickling sensations as you inhale. You may notice that the breath is warmer as you exhale. You may make other observations. Whatever you're noticing is just fine. Just bring your attention to those sensations just for another moment, feeling the breath as it moves in and out. Now shift your focus to the rhythm of the breath. Feel the natural flow of breath in and out. You don't need to change anything, just allow it to happen as it is, without forcing it or controlling it. That can sometimes be hard. Notice the place in your body where you feel the breath the strongest. This might be in your abdomen, it might be in your chest, it may be in your nostrils. Wherever it is, bring your attention here for a moment. Notice that when one breath ends, the next breath begins. If you find that you're not able to notice the breath, that's also okay. Over time and with practice, this will come. And slowly open your eyes and just come back into your body, come back to, unfortunately, looking at the screen. Just take a breath in and out. And I just want to know how you're feeling. How was that for you?
I didn't realize how loud my heartbeat was.
Mhm.
Interesting. Interesting. What did you notice, Mel?
Yeah, you just become much more aware of your body, heartbeat, your extremities,
Yeah.
and feel definitely more calm, which is nice.
So one saying from the yogic Vedas, the yogic text, is that the mind controls the body, but the breath controls the mind. Isn't that interesting? Because we also control the breath, right? So that comes back to that cyclical pattern. So it's all to say that you can control how you're feeling. Sometimes it will take longer, but this is the thing I love about this, is that you can do this anywhere, anytime. It doesn't cost any money. And it's a great way to self-regulate. And I think that was maybe 10 breaths, right? That didn't take very long. Andrea, welcome. How are you?
Thanks, Christina. I'm good. I just was rushing over for my gym class. So.
No worries. Were you able to do the mindfulness practice?
Yeah, I did it. You just started it when I joined, so it was good to kind of reset and then, kind of disconnect from work and a sweaty class. Good to take a few breaths. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And how are you feeling now then?
Just a bit more calm. Yeah. It's definitely hard to focus on your breath when there's so many other things, constantly going around in your mind. But it was helpful when you prompted us to focus on, the rhythm and where you're feeling it the most, etc. It just sort of brings you back.
Yeah. Well, and that's normal too. I think with meditation, people think we're supposed to stop thinking, but our mind is designed to think, right? So that happens, and I think that happens with everybody, and so that's why it's a practice, right? You just come back. It's like a puppy dog, I always say. So you train the puppy dog, and you say sit. And the puppy dog stands up and jumps around, and then you say sit. You don't get angry at the puppy dog. You don't yell at it. You just kind of calmly say sit. And so it's the same with, a breathing practice or just kind of being mindful. It's like you will wander away. But the breath is a really nice bridge between the mind and the body. So I think Mel said it, you become much more aware. John, you said it. You said you didn't notice how loud your heartbeat was, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I want to, so that was simply, okay, I don't know if John was were you trying to write something there, John? Not sure. Okay. I'm seeing red.
Sorry, I was trying to get one screen off of the other thing, and I pushed it by mistake. But I did pay attention to what you were saying and listen to my breath and try to go with the cadence. It was very relaxing.
Okay, good. So I want to talk a little bit about that before we get into this next practice, because, you kind of think, well, so what? I feel more calm. But when you become more grounded and in tune with your body, it gives you the space and the control to decide how you're going to, move on with the rest of your day. So I want to give you a little story about a woman that I was working with a while ago. She was a yoga teacher, and she also had a really stressful corporate job. And she was a little bit overweight, and she was we were working and we were practicing yoga. And working on habits actually. And she, I think because of her stressful life and everything, she had some good habits, but she'd come home and she'd have a glass of wine, or she'd be tired after work, who isn't, and would order in or make something fast. And so the weight creeps on, other things happen, she's feeling stressed. And so rather than telling her what not to do, I asked her if she could practice breathing, like a meditation breathing practice for 2 minutes when she got home from work. And that was the only thing I gave her for a long time. And so, if she was tired, she could put her feet up, she could lie down. If she was feeling kind of, amped up, she could sit up and just kind of really, really breathe. And all she had to do, it was for 2 minutes, no more. Eventually that practice did become longer, but that's all she started with. So then we were kind of working and doing yoga. And one day she came to me and she was like, I've lost 30 pounds. And so I was kind of asking her about this. I was really curious. And what happened was that 2 minutes, like I said, eventually over time became a practice that she looked forward to. And so, it did eventually become maybe a 10-minute practice. But what it did was it gave her, like you were saying, Andrea, you came in, maybe you're a bit stressed because you're late or whatever, no problem. But, you get a moment to disconnect and kind of set whatever it was that was going on before aside and just breathe and just have some mental space, right? Feel relaxed and then feel, well, what is it that I need next? And so that gave her the space to determine how she wanted the rest of her night to go, what it was that she wanted for herself. And so it allowed her to determine, I want to cook dinner tonight, or, I'm going to eat this salad as opposed to ordering French fries or whatever it was. So that's kind of the next, so it I think in one of the things that I was kind of advertising was when you control your breath, you can help to strengthen your mind. And that's actually true because you're giving yourself the space to be in tune with what you really need. And I think that comes back down to what I was talking about before, the being seated in the self, that deep intuition that we know, what is good for us. Okay, so let's do some deep breathing now. So we're going to do this 3-part breathing practice. And really the intention is to notice the 3 parts of the breath and to increase awareness. So as we inhale, we'll be breathing in and out through the nose. And you'll breathe into the belly. You can see the diagram on the left, into the ribs and into the chest. I'll cue this. And then as you exhale, you'll exhale through the chest, ribs, and belly. Okay? So that's how it's going to go. Just take a moment. And whatever you're doing, if you can set it aside just for this moment, you can turn off the screen if you want. Close your eyes maybe to kind of tune out those distractions and just sit comfortably in the chair that you're in, or lying on the ground if that works better for you, that's fine too. Begin by placing your hands just on your collarbone, on your clavicles here, and one hand on your belly. So the first bit is we're just going to take a deep breath in and just notice the subtle rise of your chest, of the collarbone. So inhale and exhale. Feel the clavicles lower. I'm just going to do that a few times, inhaling and exhaling. Now just breathing in at your own pace, feeling the rising and falling of the chest. Now place your hands on your ribs. You can please keep one on your clavicles if you'd like, and one on your ribs, or both on your ribs. That's up to you. And as you breathe in, feel your ribs expanding out. And exhale, feel them relax and contract in gently. Inhale, expanding, Exhale, relaxing or contracting. Just do that a few more times at your own pace. Noticing the rib cage expanding and relaxing. Now place your hands on your belly. Take a deep breath in, expanding your belly like it's a balloon. Really push it out. And exhale, contract your belly, suck it in. And do that again. Inhale into your belly, expanding, pushing it out. Exhale, contract it in as you breathe out. And one more time. And now place one hand on your collarbones, on your clavicles, one hand on your belly. We'll practice the 3-part. So breathing into your belly, expand your belly. Expand your ribs and your chest. Exhale, the ribs lower. The chest contracts. The belly goes in. And again, inhale to the belly. The ribs and the chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. Do that a couple more times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And let your hands fall away. Just continue this 3-part breath. Maybe 2 or 3 more times at your own pace. And now let your breathing return to normal. And just stay here for a moment and observe. Notice how your body feels. Any sensations. Notice what's going on in your mind also. Let your mind do whatever it is that it wants to do. Just observe. And then slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, how did everyone find this? I'd love to hear how you found that practice.
I felt like I had to relearn how to breathe.
Oh, interesting. What about it did you feel that you had to relearn?
Well, I think instinctively, when I was breathing, when I was inhaling, I felt backwards. I felt upside down, like I had to, like my stomach would go in instead of expand with the breath, because I'm used to like breathing into my lungs, but not into my belly. So it felt like I had to think, okay, when you would say, okay, breathe in and feel the belly expand, it was almost like I had to push the air down there. So I felt like, do I not know how to breathe?
Yeah. So it's really work, isn't it? Like you're really using your muscles in there. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any kind of interesting observations or learnings? How's your energy level, John?
I was just going to say that usually I only take the short breaths, and when I feel stressed, then I usually take the deeper breaths. But this was a peaceful way to relax for me, and it's something that I could get used to and take advantage of.
Good. And how's your energy level feeling, John?
I feel like I have a clarity. So instead of just going to my same old place where I just feel tired, now I have maybe a renewed surge of energy just to do something instead of just feeling tired and bored and just ready to go to bed.
Thank you. Okay, so we can control where we're breathing. We can control the length. We can follow the breath. We can also equalize the breath. So this one here, okay, so I'll talk a little bit about equalizing breath. I want to talk a little bit about the physiology. So if you can look at this picture here, if you can't see it, you can feel it actually. Just under your ribs, you have the diaphragm. It's under your lungs, okay? And so as you inhale, your diaphragm pulls downward, okay? So that helps the lungs to open up and expand with oxygen, okay? So that's what's happening there. And then as you exhale, the diaphragm returns upward. And so it kind of forces the air out of the lungs. So you're expelling the carbon dioxide, okay? The waste product. So when you're exhaling, you're actually detoxing. Every single exhale is a detox because you're removing toxins from your body. Carbon dioxide is a toxin for us, right? We don't need it. And nature is so kind of amazing in that it's designed that the trees will intake that carbon dioxide and produce oxygen for us to be able to breathe. It's kind of an amazing synergy that happens there. Another amazing synergy that happens is that when you inhale, your diaphragm pulls down, helping the lungs to expand. It also creates more room in the heart cavity so that more blood can flow. For more blood to flow, your body has to send a signal through the vagus nerve to your brain, which then tells your heart to beat more quickly. When you exhale and the diaphragm returns upward and you're releasing the breath, you're exhaling, you have less space in the heart cavity, so the heart slows down. So whenever you want to calm down, you want to lengthen your exhales, okay? So that is actually using the physiology of the body to control the stress response. And there's so many reasons that I kind of touched on before about why we want to control the stress response. I mean, obviously, because stress doesn't feel good. Short-term stress is something that we need to have, but it's when it becomes chronic that we need to learn how to control it. And so using this equalizing breath, so equal breaths in, equal breaths out, is a really nice way to regulate, help us feel better, and also regulate that kind of stress that I was talking about. Okay, so again, take a comfortable seated position. We're going to inhale for a count of 4. We're going to retain for a count of 4. And we're going to exhale for a count of 4. And then we're going to retain for a count of 4. So a little while ago, I talked about, psychologists call this box breathing. So like a box. So equal parts of the 4 different parts of the breath. But don't worry, I'll guide us through it. You can rest your hands either on your belly or on your chest. Just get comfortable sitting up nice and tall, but relaxed. So you don't need to be too stiff. close your eyes and just first come in tune with your breath. Just observe the breath in and out without making any changes. Maybe you notice some things now that you hadn't noticed before. Maybe notice more movement, or you notice the chest lifting, the belly expanding, or whatever else. It's all good. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in. And exhale, and we'll begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold the inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold the exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Okay, release. Just breathe at your own pace. Just allow your breath to return to normal. Just come back into your body. Notice if you were distracted. That's okay. Notice how you're feeling. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. How was this practice? Did it feel different? Did it feel hard? Did it not feel hard?
Practiced it because I had to get enough breath to hold it for 4. And then as I practiced it a couple times, it just kind of got a little bit easier. Just that holding, it was almost like, okay, I have to pause and maybe just think for a moment.
Yeah, because we so often don't hold the breath, and that in itself is kind of requires, it can be hard, it can be almost stressful in a way. This is a really great practice if you are trying to do something hard that you're feeling kind of stressed about, to just kind of equalize. So when I say this can feel almost stressful, there's a difference between putting stress on our body in a controlled way to create resilience as opposed to chronic stress that we're not controlling, right? So something like a cold shower, or holding our breath for a long period of time, or doing the hard thing, whatever it is, right? So, and when we do kind of the hard thing in a controlled, safe way, that builds resilience, and builds resilience both in the mind and also in the body, because often we're too comfortable. So doing the uncomfortable thing can actually be good for us.
So would you do this before you need to do an uncomfortable thing?
Yeah, I do. I sometimes get restless legs. It's something I've had, my whole life, and it's not really that bad, but if I'm sitting in a plane, like if I've been sitting for a long period of time, I just feel this like need to, and so I'll do this breath practice. And so, and then it's like I kind of detach in a way. I can feel the body kind of going, oh, I want to stress. So it's interesting. Or when I'm teaching a yin class, so they're long holds. So sometimes we can hold poses for 6 minutes. It's a long time, especially if you're doing a heart opening pose. Okay. So whenever you open up the heart, that automatically signals a bit of stress to the body. We want to protect our hearts, right? We lean forward, we do whatever we can because there's a lot of really important technology here that we don't want to get hurt. So that can be really anxiety provoking in people when you do these heart opening, but it's good for you to do that. So I'll take people through this controlled breathing practice, and that helps to kind of gives them a measure of control to hang on to. And it's just stressful enough that it will distract them from the other thing that they need to be calm for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
How did everybody else find it? Did anybody really not enjoy it? Did anybody love it? Personally, it's one of my hard to hold after exhale. Yeah, Mel. I used to find that too. With practice, it gets easier with time. And you can shorten it in the beginning. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to share?
I think what I would say is when I exhaled, I tried to completely exhale all the air out of my lungs, and then I began to panic because I had to count to 4 before I could inhale again. But I tried to do the best I could.
That's interesting. So that's exactly kind of it's interesting. That's a pattern, right? That you've observed in your mind. Okay, so you're telling yourself a story. Why are you after 4 seconds without air? You're not going to nothing's going to happen. Not telling you to hold it for 4 minutes. You wouldn't be able to hold it for 4 minutes. But it's interesting. It's interesting.
But I wasn't thinking about anything else. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of it as well. It gives our mind a focus and the ability to kind of relax and let go of the other things. And so then you come back more kind of more clear. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so the benefits. So I have a whole slew of benefits here, and you probably see lots of lists of benefits, etc. These are all scientifically supported benefits, though. So they have there's been a lot of different research on breathing, a lot with Wim Hof, actually. He puts himself up for scientific research all the time. So the first one is that it strengthens your lungs. Something you want your lung capacity to be strong. So basically with the movement of the lungs, you're increasing airflow, you're causing them to move, you're creating resistance and then decreasing resistance. And so that's a great practice just in general for the respiratory system. So if you're feeling like you're having trouble with your breathing for some reason, pranayama is a nice safe way to do it. I would do it the deep belly breathing. You don't need to do anything particularly stressful. There's also a breath called Ujjayi breathing or ocean breath, which is really great for strengthening up inside the throat area. So if you have, if you suffer from snoring or sleep apnea, that's one that you could do. I would say hire a yoga teacher to teach you how to do it, but it's essentially if you think that you're breathing in as though through a straw, you're constricting your throat. That's a great practice to do. And that's something that yogis do when they're actually doing their exercise. So they incorporate and they can add layers of difficulty just by changing their breathing practice. And it's really interesting. You think that, I can do an Ashtanga practice. And then you get an advanced yogi to count and make you kind of do the breath with them. And it becomes very, very difficult very quickly. Okay, it can also act as a stress reliever, right? And I think that we all can kind of see that. I think everybody here just about said that they felt more relaxed. So, I mean, part of it is because it brings us into our body. Part of it is that physiological response that I talked about before. So you're slowing your heart rate down. The next one is improving concentration. So you're getting more air into your lungs, more airflow into your brain, actually. And so it calms the mind, it takes away anxiety, and it allows you to be able to focus more. Okay. So in terms of cognitive function, when you do like a fast breath, I just want to make sure that I have the sign, like it's basically, so like almost like pumping the belly and breathing quickly. Again, you want to do these with someone who is trained in breath control, because it can have like really strong effects on you, and then you kind of don't know who to talk to. It can be stressful, but that actually helps the neural processing. And the here it says sensor motor performance. So the study, and I have all the studies listed at the end. But basically, they did of 84 participants, and they did fast and slow breathing, and then they watched their brain and found that it was improving cognitive function, and it was basically in the executive function. So that's in the front part. So the ability to make decisions, and also the ability to concentrate and focus. So that's something we all kind of want. It helps in detoxification. So I think I talked about that before. So whenever you're breathing out, that's metabolic waste, right? So there's carbon dioxide and metabolic waste that leaves through the lungs, and that's one of the ways that we detoxify our bodies. It's really, really good for the nasal passages and sinuses. So it reduces stress, it reduces inflammation. Does anyone here have seasonal allergies? It's hay fever season. Am I the only one? No? Good. Good. I think if you do, you really want to pay attention to that. Because it means something is out of alignment with nature. So I have seasonal allergies. They're slowly going away. It's something that I've had for many years because of constant stress, which is also why I developed the autoimmune hypothyroid disorder. They kind of, I think the allergies were an earlier symptom that if I had paid attention to, maybe I could have avoided the medicine and some of the trouble that I went through with that. But the breathing actually reduces inflammation, it reduces stress, and it's really good for your nasal passages and your sinuses. If you have, or you know someone who has really itchy nose and they're sneezing a lot, especially this time of year, a breathing practice will help. Also a little bit of oil in the sinuses. It improves your sleep. I want to know how you guys all sleep tonight. Send me a little text to let me know, because when you breathe properly, you're putting oxygen into your blood cells through the lungs, and you're nourishing your whole body, and your body will be able to relax and let go. And also because you're reducing stress in the mind, that will also help you to sleep better. Pranayama, there's been a lot of studies to show that it boosts immunity. Because there's something I didn't mention before, but it has to do with lymphocytes, which are the cells that are fighting different diseases. And when you're stressed, your immune system is not able to fight off different invaders in the same way. And so when you reduce stress and you therefore increase immunity. So it has to do with the anti-stress reasons. And it's also because, I'm going to come back to this one. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, so I want to make sure that I say this correctly, but it's basically the lymphocytes which fight. So something like COVID, I wouldn't say that pranayama is going to prevent you from getting that. I'm not saying anything like that. What I'm saying is that it promotes a healthy body. It reduces stress, which allows the systems that will fight invaders to be stronger and be able to resist. So it's boosting your immune system, okay? Not making it something that it's not, but helping it function at its best. It improves cardiovascular health. It also improves digestion. So let's dig into these a little bit. So when you're stressed, what happens is your body sends the blood to your extremities. So to your hands, to your legs, the fight and flight response, so that under, attack by a lion or whatever, you can run. I think we've all kind of heard this, right? You can run, you can fight, you can freeze. What that means, though, is that you're not getting enough blood and enough energy sent to the areas that are necessary for digestion. So rest and digest. You won't rest very well if you're under chronic stress. You won't digest very well. And there's a connection between the brain and the belly and the gut, right? There's a direct connection. So so pranayama, by reducing the stress response, the autonomic stress response, will actually help improve digestion. If you're feeling stressed, try not to eat. Try to do some breathing before, okay? Because really, otherwise, undigested food causes ama in the body, and that's the root of many, many different diseases. Ama which is not digested, either in the mind or in the body. It makes your skin glow because you're hyperoxidizing everything in your body. It helps in weight loss in the same way that it helps improve digestion. It reduces the stress response, which means you're going to have less cortisol. You are going to digest better. You're going to absorb nutrients better because you're digesting better. And so it will naturally help to promote weight loss. And there are studies to actually support this. It's effective for brain disorders. So if you know someone with dementia or with Parkinson's, these all have a component of how oxygen works and it's distributed in the brain. And so it is effective for those. It increases brain gray matter, you're improving concentration, and it improves focus. So lots and lots of benefits, you guys. All to say that, I think you should be looking at incorporating a breathing practice. Just as simple as what we did today is just fine. It's not rocket science. It's really something, like I said, that's free and that you can do anytime, anywhere. So, okay, I talked a lot more than I said I was going to. I'd love to open up to any questions or comments. Does anybody have anything that they want to share or anything that I didn't cover that you want to know more about? I know I didn't touch all that much on routines for Vanity, so I can dig into that if that's something you want to talk to. Someone said comments about breathing and essential oils. Melanie, can you talk a little bit more about that, like what your question is?
Just wondering whether there's any proven health benefit or any literature that you've read which suggests that, in addition to your breathing techniques, perhaps it's heightened in some way by using essential oil.
Okay, so we have someone here who is perhaps an expert or who knows a lot about this. So I'm gonna actually pass this over to Jody. There is a lot. I have to say that before. There is Ayurveda, Melanie. There's a lot to talk about with essential oils and what they do for health and breathing. So, but Jody really knows a lot about this.
So I won't cite any scientific studies or anything like that, but I can tell you a little bit about how they work when you breathe oils. What happens is you are getting a direct response to the limbic system. So if you were to pinch your nose, there's a little pathway there, the neural tube, so to speak. The neurons travel through the olfactory nerve. There we go, I lost my word. And it's the quickest way to get a response in the body. If you think about smell, if you ever smell something and it takes you back to a memory, right? There's triggers in that olfactory nerve, and it's a direct response to the limbic system, and then the limbic system sends messages to the brain. So essential oils can really benefit you if you inhale them in many different ways. If you think about if you've ever been to the dentist and you've had to go get the laughing gas. They don't really give you a pill or a needle when you need to be put under. They put the mask on your face, right? And so when you breathe that in, you count down from 10, and in a matter of seconds, you're asleep or you're in this euphoric state. And oils work the same way because they travel that olfactory nerve to the brain, and messages are sent to the system. So you can definitely experience calm from oils that have more calming constituents in them. You can maybe feel invigorated if you need to focus when you breathe in, and if you're doing a breathing technique and have an oil like a peppermint or something that's going to be uplifting and invigorating. It's also going to help oxygen flow to the brain, so that's also going to help you focus. And I've even seen a pregnant, nauseous friend breathe in an oil that was meant for digestive health, for stomach, for morning sickness. Just breathe it in, and in a matter of minutes, the oils knew where to go, and her nausea was gone. So essential oils can really support you through breath, for sure. I mean, if we think about congestion, Christina mentioned allergies, asthma, all of these things are, they're triggered through our olfactory nerve and through that nasal passage. And so oils can definitely be a strong support. I could go on for hours, but if you want to learn more, I teach classes every Thursday night. In fact, I'm going to jump off shortly to teach one tonight at 8, but I'm happy to share my links and have you join at any time if there's any topics you're curious about. You'd be welcome to come and learn.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Melanie, I also can send you some Ayurvedic information on oils if you're interested. So in Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, for those of you who don't know, it's like Ayur means body and Veda means wisdom. Sorry, I'm just shifting here. I'm just going to finish shifting. Otherwise, I'm moving around and it's going to bother everyone. They talk about bringing the body into balance. And so, yeah, you would use oils kind of in the way that Jody was talking about. So you might use kind of like a heating oil for energizing. If you're trying to, say, if you're feeling really you're feeling really low energy, you're feeling really lethargic, you might breathe in something like that. If you're feeling very scattered, you need to kind of bring your energy down, more calming, you would use kind of maybe a cooling oil. So it just really depends on what you're trying to achieve with the oils. But I guess the other comment is it's really important that you use good quality oils. Not all essential oils are the same. They don't all come from the same pure. You want to make sure that you're not breathing in a lot of chemicals. So do your research, is I would say. I don't know, Jody, if you had anything you want. Okay, good. Jody put a link there to her workshop. So she knows a lot about essential oils and can kind of guide you there. And I can always send you, information on Ayurveda. Are there other questions? Okay. You guys are quiet. That's okay. Okay, so I can't obviously tell you, thank you, Sravampi. So I can't tell you everything in an hour, right? So I do these free sessions partly because I want to give back. I've learned a lot over the past 8 years of study through Ayurveda and yoga, and I want to make sure that I'm sharing this. But I can't go over everything in a free session. So what I am doing is I offer a program, and if you're interested in learning more, I've got a few strategy sessions that I offer every week. I usually offer about 3 a week, and it's $150 value, but I offer it for free as a way to say thank you for coming to my session. And if you're interested, it's about an hour long, and we go over what your health goals are, what your concerns are, and we come up with a detailed strategy, like an action plan. So it's really a very practical session. And out of that action plan, if I feel I can help you, I'll make you an offer. And if I feel like I know someone else who can help you, I'll refer you where I think that someone can really do something, give you something worthwhile. So if you're interested in that, I'll send all of you a link. And like I said, I offer about 3 a week. So if you want to get in this week, you'll need to book in quickly. Otherwise, reach out and I can try to get you in later. But otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today. So it's about 5 minutes to 8. So we're finishing hopefully a little bit early, and I appreciate your time. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts or comments?
Just thank you. That was it's a helpful reminder that we can really shift things quite easily if we think about it. We always need to think about it. That's all. Even with my oil, sometimes I forget I got these great tools, and so this is another great tool to add to our wellness toolbox. And I think definitely one I'm going to look to when I'm feeling stressed or have to do one of those things that I don't really like to do. I like the idea of the box breathing for that. I'm definitely going to put that one at the top of my toolbox.
Good. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Christina. I echo those comments as well. As I look for improving my health and my daily habits, I am going to practice this breathing and try to use some of those techniques that you shared.
Okay,
And forward to some more wisdom that you're able to give us.
that's great. Yeah, so I come on here about once every couple of weeks. So, I'll put you on the mailing list, and you can always let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I'll send you a link for the strategy session. John, I think it'd be really beneficial for you. So I'm going to look to you to reach out. But otherwise, have a great evening. And I guess, okay, I want to leave you with one thought. I think, the thing is, we all have the power to make change, right? We all do. And I think so often we look to external experts to tell us what we can do, but you just have to, the most important thing is you have to know that you can make change. If you're feeling like something is not right, there is a way to make change. There is a way to make yourself feel better. I mean, I think we have this weird, or this concept that's come in our society that aging, for example, there are certain things that have to happen. Like we have to get shorter as we age. Well, guess what? The breath can help with that too. And we didn't cover that today, but it can. It's a lot of these things are not necessarily true. Oh, pain is just a part of getting older. No, it doesn't have to be. It's common. It's normal, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be your normal either. And there's always time to change. I think the very first sutra in the Yoga Sutras, which are the kind of basic tenets or wisdom from yoga, says, do yoga now. That's all it means, is just wherever you are, however it is for you, you can do it. You can make change. You just have to do it now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Andrea.
Thank you.